Okay, people, we are here again to do some algebra. We are going to do section 10.4 of your algebra book, which is on page 652. So turn to 10.4, page 652. We're continuing to learn about quadratic equations. So far, we've done graphing. And remember, when we graph, if our parabola is here, our solutions when we solve, like when we factored, remember when we factored and we had an x plus 3 and an x plus 2, and so our solutions when we solved would be x was -2 or -3. That's where our parabola crosses the x-axis. So remember, when we graph it, we'll cross at -2, -3. That's one way to solve it when we factor. Another way is when we graph, where it crosses the x is going to be the solution to our problem. Remember, before we talked about how this would have two solutions. This would have no solutions because it's never going to hit the x-axis. And this would have one because it hits the x-axis only at its vertex. Okay, so it was pretty easy to do it those ways when we had whole numbers as our solutions. But some of our quadratic equations don't have whole numbers as solutions. They have decimals or fractions, and that's harder to do from a graph or with factoring. So we're going to learn about some ways to solve those that have those kind of crazy numbers in them. So here we go, on page 652, example number 1. All right, so if you can remember, the opposite of a square is a square root. So if I want to get rid of a square, I can square root it and it will take care of it, right? So on example number 1, A, we're going to do 2x squared equals 8, I think is what it says. All right, so we're going to solve this like algebra. And we're going to get rid of our 2 first. We're going to try and get our letter with the square all by itself before we can do any square rooting. So let's get that letter by itself. So we have a 2. Remember, when a 2 is next to something, it's times. And if you were here, I'd say, what should we do? What's the opposite of times? Divide. Okay, so we're going to divide. So that goes away. X squared is going to equal 4, because 8 divided by 2 is 4. Man, I wish you were here too, because then you could check and make sure I was mathing correctly. Okay, so now we're at the point where the x squared is by itself. To get rid of an x with a square, to get rid of a square, we square root. So let's square root. But to be fair, we have to do it on both sides. Okay, so this square and this square root cancel each other out. We have x. Perfect. That's the goal we were looking for. The square root of 4, as you know, is plus or minus 2. Remember, the reason it's plus or minus 2 because positive 2 times positive 2 can make 4, and negative 2 times negative 2 can make 4. So that's why you have positive and negative 2. And that would be the solutions. If I graph this, it would hit at positive and negative 2. Okay, so let's try another one. Let's look at B. Okay, B of example number 1 says m squared minus 18 equals -18. Okay, what was the first thing we needed to do? Get the m by itself, right? Get the letter by itself. So we have a -18. So to get rid of a -18, I'm pausing so you can answer me and then I can check. But I can't hear you, so you have to talk louder. Okay, -18, to get rid of a -18, we have to add 18. So that makes 0, goes away. This also makes 0 on this side. It's okay, don't be scared. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes our solution is just a plain old 0. It's a number 2. So to get rid of a square, we square root. Goes away. M, what's the square root of 0? 0. So that's okay. That doesn't mean no solution. That means we got an answer, and the answer is actually just the number 0, and that's okay. So on this one, we just have one solution, and it is just 0. Not no solution, because there's actually a number. 0 is actually a number, so we count it, and we write m equals 0, and we move on. So let's do it. Example number 1c. Okay, 1c says b squared plus 12 equals 5. Actually, let me check.